The Galactic Council had seen countless species rise and fall. Some burned bright and vanished. Others integrated into the interstellar fold without resistance. But Earth was different. It wasn't just their sudden arrival on the galactic stage that unsettled the Council. It was the speed, the unpredictability, and the defiance of all known models of development. In barely a century and a half, humans had gone from internal combustion to faster-than-light travel. No species had done it that fast. None had done it with such chaotic brilliance. The Council convened an emergency session for the fourth time that month. Earth had launched its third deep space vessel beyond its solar system, and this one didn't carry scientists. It carried diplomats and a small contingent of ex-military personnel. The Council's analysts debated fiercely. Some claimed humans were a threat that needed to be quarantined. Others argued that their unique creativity, emotional intelligence, and brutal honesty could make them invaluable allies, especially with the Karnak swarm advancing to the outer systems. That hive-based species had already consumed 3 Council-line worlds, and standard countermeasures were proving ineffective. Humanity might just be the variable the Council needed. After days of tense deliberation, the Council voted, barely. Earth would be invited to observe the Council as a provisional member. The vote was couched in lofty language about unity and peace, but it was, in truth, a move to study and contain the unpredictable new player. Earth accepted. But instead of sending a typical political envoy, they sent a team no one expected. Dr. Elira Rames, a cultural anthropologist with a military intelligence background, 2 former fleet commanders turned civilian advisors, and a linguist who was also a poet. Not one of them was a sitting government official. That choice alone sent a ripple of confusion through the Council. The human delegation didn't start with formal declarations or power plays. They began by asking questions. Dozens of them. They held informal sessions, engaged in heated debates, and listened more than they spoke. They studied every member race's history, language, culture, and mythology. They attended art forums and volunteered for collaborative scientific research without prompting. Within weeks, they knew more about some member species than those species knew about themselves. But the thing that disturbed the Council the most was how comfortable the humans were with contradiction. When asked about their own history, wars, atrocities, environmental ruin, they didn't deflect or deny. They acknowledged it. They owned their mistakes. They spoke of both triumph and shame as essential threads of the same fabric. No other race had ever displayed that level of moral transparency in diplomatic space. It was refreshing. It was unsettling. As weeks turned into months, it became clear to the Council humanity didn't fit any mold. They weren't ruled by logic alone, nor were they slaves to instinct. They navigated by something else, something the Council couldn't quantify. That was both terrifying and fascinating. Humanity wasn't just another new species. They were something the galaxy hadn't seen before, something that didn't follow the rules. And the Council had just invited it inside. The transformation was subtle at first. During joint task force briefings, human advisors proposed models no other species had ever considered. They integrated intuition with statistical modeling, creating battlefield simulations that accounted for chaos rather than avoiding it. It baffled traditional Council strategists. Yet, in the first real engagement with the Karnak swarm under human-coordinated command, Allied forces held the line. Not just held, they pushed forward. But it wasn't only in war that humanity made its mark. Their approach to diplomacy was disarming. When the Endar delegation arrived late to a meeting, the humans didn't chastise them. They brought coffee and shared a joke about Earth's own bureaucratic messes. That single act led to the Endari initiating joint research efforts, despite centuries of political neutrality. Another species, the Grelin, long considered emotionally cold and analytically rigid, began adapting human empathy modeling in their medical AI after a quiet exchange with Dr. Rames. She hadn't pushed it. She'd simply listened to their philosophy on pain and shared a human poem in return. The Grelin wept publicly for the first time in known galactic history. In the field, human officers were the first to volunteer for forward posts and last to abandon wounded allies. They applied triage techniques that prioritized lives over species. Stories began spreading across Council fleets. of human medics carrying injured soldiers of other races on their backs, of engineers sharing emergency oxygen with Drellic Scout until evac arrived. These weren't orders. No one told them to do it. They just did. Culturally, the impact was even deeper. Humans introduced music not as background ambience, but as a language. Their melodies told stories a translator implants couldn't capture, of loss, triumph, unity, and hope. When a joint council concert was organized, the human delegation performed a piece-titled Elegy for the Unknown. Several species, previously considered emotionally dormant, asked for copies. They wanted to feel it again. Human cuisine, at first dismissed as barbarically spicy or strangely sweet, became a quiet revolution. Sharing food turned into a diplomatic event. Taste became trust. And trust, once planted, grew fast. Within 6 months, 3 independent species who had never taken formal sides in council matters pledged exclusive tech-sharing pacts with Earth. They cited not political gain, but emotional resonance and unmatched cooperation as their reasons. For the first time, Earth's delegation was seen not just as guests, but as leaders. Informal ones, yes, but with influence that far exceeded protocol. Still, the signs of imbalance were emerging. While many welcomed the human presence, a growing number of council veterans whispered concern. They noted how quickly others deferred to human judgment. They saw that every loss humanity suffered was met with disproportionate retaliation. The humans were loyal beyond reason, but that loyalty had a dark side. One council observer put it best: to be loved by a human is to be protected by fire. But what happens when that fire turns on you? The turning point came without warning. A classified human battle plan, designed to repel a major Karnak swarm incursion, was leaked. The plan had relied on coordinated ambushes, high-risk timing, and precise logistics. With the element of surprise gone, the swarm overwhelmed the task force. Over 12,000 were lost, nearly half of them human. The rest were soldiers from allied species who had volunteered to serve under Earth's command. It was a massacre. Initial suspicion fell on the Council's Internal Intelligence Division, but investigation traced the leak to a lesser-known member race, the Halvarith. Pressured by older Council factions, they had passed the data to a neutral broker, hoping to slow Earth's growing influence without direct confrontation. The betrayal was clear, but the Council opted for diplomacy. Sanctions were proposed. Apologies were offered. No consequences of substance followed. Earth's delegation remained silent through the hearings. They listened to every excuse, every word of compromise. Then they vanished. For 3 days, not a single human ship envoy or representative responded to Council communications. On the 4th day, the Halvarith shipyard in orbit over their capital moon suffered a catastrophic systems failure. Its central AI collapsed under a precision virus no one had seen before. Entire sectors shut down in sequence. Within minutes, the station was lost. 7 million Halvarith workers and civilians perished. No one claimed responsibility. No message was sent. But every military analyst in the galaxy recognized the signature. It was human Black Ops textbook. Panic swept through the Council. Emergency sessions were called. Accusations flew. But Earth said nothing. No denial. No justification. Just silence. And then, 2 days later, Dr. Alira Rames returned to the Council floor. Her speech was brief. We offered trust. We received treachery. Let this be understood. Humanity protects its own. We are not conquerors, nor are we saints. We are your best ally, until we are not. Do not ask us to forgive what you would never forget. She turned and walked out. The silence in the chamber that followed was not out of shock. It was fear. For the first time, the Council understood something critical. Earth was not bound by their code of proportional response. Where other species sought balance, humans sought resolution, finality. They didn't retaliate to send a message. They retaliated to end the threat. Some among the Council tried to condemn the act publicly, but those voices were quieted by their own people. Many of their citizens supported Earth's actions. They saw not tyranny, but justice, delivered cleanly, decisively, without bureaucracy. The Halvarith withdrew from the Council. Their systems went dark, But the galaxy had seen the lesson. Betraying a human wasn't a mistake. It was suicide. And worse, if you stood in the way of that justice, you might be next. From that point forward, the question wasn't if humanity belonged in the Council. It was whether the Council still existed without them. In the aftermath of the Halvorth incident, the balance of power within the Galactic Council shifted irreversibly. The old structure, once a bastion of careful neutrality and endless debate, now bent under the weight of a new force certainty. Earth, without ever demanding it, had become the axis around which decisions turned, not through votes or threats, but through presence, through consequence. The restructuring began quietly. Species who once remained passive began aligning openly with Earth. Trade agreements, defense pacts, and joint scientific ventures formed a network that bypassed traditional council bureaucracy. At first, it was called the Human Bloc. Soon, it was simply known as the Pact. It didn't ask for loyalty, it inspired it. Because within the Pact, betrayal was unthinkable. Not out of fear alone, but out of respect. Agreements meant something again. The Council resisted. At first, resolutions were drafted to reassert authority, but they lacked teeth. Earth didn't challenge them. They simply ignored them. When a rogue faction attempted to seize a neutral relay station critical to interstellar communication, Pact forces, led by a human fleet, responded within hours. They retook the station with 0 casualties. Their message was simple. You may challenge our ideas, but you will not threaten our stability. Soon, the Council capitulated. A new charter was drafted, one where Earth's principles, clear justice, mutual accountability, and immediate response to treachery, became the foundation. The vote passed overwhelmingly, not because Earth forced it, but because no one trusted the old ways anymore. Earth never declared itself the leader of the galaxy. They didn't need to. They stood watch at the edge of known space, their ships silent sentinels, their diplomats ever present, their warriors seldom seen, but never doubted. They become both sword and shield, feared and welcomed in equal measure. 50 years later, a Xantari historian recorded his reflections for the Galactic Archives. They came with open hands, he wrote, and asked only to share the table. When they were struck, they did not retreat. They set the table on fire, rebuilt it from the ash, and invited us back to sit again, if we dared. He continued, I do not know if they are good or evil. Perhaps they are both. Perhaps that is the essence of being human. But this I know. If Earth stands with you, no force in the galaxy will break you. If Earth stands against you, you will not be remembered. This duality became legend. Among the stars, Earth was a paradox. Peacekeeper and executioner, healer and hammer. Children of alien races grew up learning human stories not as fiction, but as caution. Treat them with honor, and they will build with you a future none could imagine. Cross them, and they will erase you completely and without apology. And so the galaxy turned not toward fear or submission, but toward an understanding forged in both fire and loyalty. Humanity had arrived, not as conquerors nor as caretakers, but as the fulcrum of a new era, one defined by the price of betrayal and the power of alliance.